Federal Parliament is back after a long winter break. Joining me now is National Senator and former Resources Minister Matt Canavan. Matt, let's start with heritage laws. Farmers across the country are worried the federal government is secretly planning to introduce them nationwide, preventing them from completing, well, the simplest of tasks, from building a fence or digging a hole without expensive approvals from local Aboriginal groups. Is this something that we're going to see in the near future, national heritage laws?
Well, I very much hope so. I very much hope not, Rita, I should say, because these laws in WA are causing a massive amount of uncertainty and anxiety among farmers and other landowners because they have been just blindsided by their introduction over there. Over in WA, there was a piece of legislation going through the Parliament which was meant to sort of clean up heritage laws which hadn't changed since the 1970s, and then the government surreptitiously used those laws to impose these draconian new regulations. So in WA now, if you own more than 1,000 hectares, 1,100 hectares of land, you need an approval. You need to go through an Aboriginal heritage survey if you want to just move 20 kilograms of soil. Just 20 kilograms. I mean, that's hardly anything. Most of us could lift that amount quite easily. It's what you go in your suitcase at the airport. And now we've got a situation at the federal level where the now Labor federal government is saying they want to reform the heritage laws. They have an options paper out now. And so, of course, people are very worried about what they might have hiding in the closet, given what's happened over there in WA with their friends in the Labor Party there.
I think it's even worse than that. I think it's much smaller blocks of land. You don't have to have 1,100 hectares or acres. There's people who've been affected who've bought essentially residential blocks, 1 acre, and they're now worried that their land is worthless. They're not going to be able to gain the approvals needed to put a house on that vacant bit of land. So I think the farmers are fighting the good fight here, but this is going to impact a lot of other people as well. Now, I want to ask you about ACT Senator David Pocock, who wants the government to ban new fossil fuel projects to prevent harm to future generations of children. Let's have a listen.
If this will have a material impact on young people and future generations and the climate that they will experience, then we can't go ahead with that. That seems an entirely reasonable thing to do when we've just had the hottest month on record. We're going to have to adapt the way that we live, you know, seeing temperatures of 50 degrees in places like Sydney and Melbourne.
Matt, please give him a reality check, give him something. I mean, what world is he living in?
Well, this is absolutely insane because what Senator Pocock is trying to do is saying we can change the temperature of the globe project by project. We can just stop a particular mine or particular piece of infrastructure and that somehow will dial the temperature of the globe down. Of course, that's not how things work. And if we were to try and adopt that approach, we would just do nothing anymore. And not just mining. I mean, there's often obviously the implication here in what Senator Pocock is suggesting is somehow this would stop coal or gas mines, the things that he and his fellow travellers in the Greens don't like. The reality is all around the world, these laws have been weaponised to stop just basic infrastructure projects. So in the UK, the expansion of the Heathrow Airport has been held up by a law of a similar nature, saying there needs to be the climate impacts looked into before a project like that. Even things like David Pocock's much cherished light rail project here in Canberra. I mean, where are they going to get the coal to make the steel to make the rail cars and the tram lines? That, of course, has to come from coal. So if you're looking at the climate impacts there, we wouldn't do that either. Now, I think we're doing we're overreacting to the so-called global boiling, is it now? Am I right, Rita? Is it global boiling? I think we're overreacting to all
this.
Yes,
we're now boiling.
But even if you did accept all that, you wouldn't go down the path of trying to take the kettle off the boil by stopping a project on an individual basis. This is all about their war on the working class jobs of people in this country, from the Greens and David Pocock. It's got nothing actually to do with the climate or the environment.
And of course, David Pocock has ruled out support for nuclear. So I don't know where he thinks we're going to get our energy from. Solar and wind don't have any baseload power. I mean, we're living in madness. It seems these Greens are completely ignoring what's happening in Europe. They're ignoring what's going to be facing our country soon. And we're not talking about 10, 20 years down the track. This is coming in the next couple of years where we're going to see prices to continue to skyrocket, reliability become an issue, and people plunged into energy poverty. Now, finally, I want to ask you about what's happening in the Netherlands. Salvage crews are towing a cargo ship in the Netherlands after it caught fire with 3,700 vehicles on board. But the problem is around 500 electric vehicles. This is a potential environmental disaster, Matt, a real one. These lithium-ion batteries are almost impossible to extinguish once they're alight, and they can't just sink this ship because of the pollutant materials of these electric vehicles. Again, something that you've got to think about when you're thinking about electric vehicles. Also, you know, what do you do with the batteries after they expire?
Well, the first thing I think this shows is we need to do a lot more thinking about how we transport electric vehicles all around the world. This is at least the second ship in recent times where this has happened. If there had been two massive oil ships that had grounded and spilled, we'd have massive investigations all around the world into what's happening. But we're rushing into this so-called transition in electric vehicles without thinking first very hardly about how we should protect safety, not just of the environment, but also the workers on that ship. How would it be to be on that ship right now trying to control this catastrophe? The second thing this highlights, a broader issue, Rita, is that if something is marketed as green, almost certainly it is not. If you're told that you get green energy, well, that means you destroy massive amounts of rainforests in North Queensland, which is happening right now with the Chilumban wind farm. If you're told that a solar farm is green, well, it's certainly not, because there'll be huge amounts of waste and toxic materials going into our groundwater. And likewise here, I've got nothing against electric cars. If you want to buy one, go for your heart's content. But they are not green, you're not saving the planet, you're just having a fun time in a fast car powered by coal.